I would just say that for the African Development Bank, and certainly for almost all the multilateral development banks, the default position is competitive bidding in terms of projects. So you'll find that for public sector projects, unsolicited bids are always almost routinely rejected. But you also have a situation now where, given the huge infrastructure deficit that the continent has, you're finding an increasing trend in terms of unsolicited bids coming through the region, but also through government as well. Now, what is the problem then? Kusana, in his presentation, mentioned some of the tensions that exist when a promoter comes along with the project. Clearly, they're looking for some kind of preferential treatment. It's their project, and they would want to be the ones to run it. The tension comes in because clearly you want a transparent, competitive process, one that will not favor anyone, including the promoter himself. It's often difficult. It's a very challenging task for governments generally to do. In Africa, actually, I think it is only South Africa that has some kind of framework that seeks to handle the issue of unsolicited bids. Other regions have done slightly better. Other emerging markets, Chile, South Korea, Philippines, India, they all have some kind of frameworks and ways of handling this issue. What we are beginning to do and beginning to see increasingly in our public-private partnerships within the bank is that we really need to help our governments develop the capacity or at least develop the institutions to be able to handle unsolicited bids, because it's going to be the trend going forward. Why? Because if you look at some of the issues that I think some of our participants already spoke about in terms of innovative financing, we know, I think the chairperson has already spoken about the ratios, the percentages of aid that's coming to finance infrastructure. We also know the limited government budget that's coming to finance infrastructure. So really the private sector has to be a great partner to move this forward. So we see a growing trend, and therefore a need for the bank, certainly, to play a key role in empowering and helping our governments develop the frameworks that are needed to address this issue. Now, how do we do that? Well, we think clearly legal frameworks are important. Somebody mentioned the issue of harmonizing these legal frameworks. There are already practices, best practices being pursued elsewhere, like I mentioned in Chile, Korea, for example, that can be adapted and brought to our situations as well. I think we at the bank also have this Africa Legal Support Facility in situations where capacity is a constraint in member countries. And the facility not only helps to directly engage in negotiating with proponents of these USBs, but can actually help you develop the institutions and train the people that are going to be addressing these very complex deals going forward. So there's really a need for this. The issue of transparency or lack of transparency and lack of competition are real ones that we will have to address to avoid rent-seeking activities. I think I'll stop there to allow more time for discussion.
Doing business in Africa, you can't afford to be without Africa Investor.